So, this is going to be a video talking about the Montreal Major and some of the narratives to come out of it and what's going on. I'm going to try and go through this pretty quickly because yapping is fun, but I don't want to drag it out. So let's get into it, starting with some quick stuff first. APAC actually kind of surprising, really returning in full form to that underdog status as a region rather than having a singular team like a Bleed or a Bliss being a threat. Now we have APAC the region back to their standard of threatening with upsets, which is exactly what we saw, and it was pretty good, you know? It's what you want out of APAC. You want CAG to be semi-relevant. You want Chiefs and Scars and Fearex to be semi-relevant. Another quickie to just talk about and then move on is Challenger League for Life, the Tier 2 North American team. Really, really cool to see them get this opportunity, and I think that their performance isn't surprising. It's disappointing, not because I think they played poorly, but I think the situation in the lead up to the major is unfortunate. Tristan was a really big impact player for that team, and to lose that kind of player at the last minute, no less, is really impactful. This is not an indictment on Uzi, by the way. Uzi played fine. He didn't lose them the games. He also didn't win them the games. Coming into this tournament, I wanted to see CL for Life really, really perform well, because this is effectively their T1 tryout. Giddy has not been given opportunities up until now at a T1 level, so this was his stage. This was his opportunity. You want to see people like Giddy, like Packer, like, not Tristan, fuck Tristan, and like Bino get these chances, but you know, be able to really show what they are. And when you have to sub in a player last minute, you don't get to show your full potential. That's just how it works. Moving on to the Swiss stage. The Swiss stage is interesting because a lot of these matches are close. Like a lot of the BO1s, a lot of the BO3s were actually very close affairs in the broadest strokes. I don't know if this is a factor of just the world is really competitive, and you know, we have competitors all across the world able to go blow for blow with the best teams in the world. You know, not even a BDS is necessarily safe. Not even the Sonics, an SSG, a Virtus Pro. No one is safe. Everyone's going to get played close by the other teams in the Swiss stage. That could be what it is. Or is it the meta making things super close because shields make attacking really powerful, but simultaneously defense is so powerful once the shield is dealt with that, you know, maybe these matches are kind of getting made closer than they ought to be due to the meta. But let me know what you guys think is the cause of all these close matches. Are we just that competitive? Let me know. Swiss stage itself, let's talk about APAC a little bit more. Scars, I think they did what APAC does best, which is upset an unsuspecting top team and make a fool of them, and I love them for that. And I think if you look at Scars' performance in particular, they really could have gone farther had literally a round or two gone their way. Falcons really surprised. I'm really surprised with Falcons. It's really cool to see Robbie succeed on this team as an import and put Italy back on the map. So it's really cool to see Robbie having such a big impact on Falcons and to get them to main stage. This is a really big deal for the MENA League. If you love Falcons, just show them some love in the Twitch stream every now and again with a rainbow Falcons logo. They'll love that one. Anyways, let's talk about an elephant in the room. Gamers 2 Esports. This is a team that it's a verified super team, and it went 0-3 in phase 2 of the major. You know, after bullying a bunch of tier 2 and tier 1 teams in phase 1 because look, you're in the same group as CL for Life. You're literally playing against tier 2 opposition, and and G2 is always one of those teams that you expect to kind of like build into an event, right? This team's kind of momentum based. The more matches you give them, in theory, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. These are gunners. The more you let them heat up, the more dangerous they're going to be. It's unacceptable, and I think this inconsistency, because we know the highs that G2 can have, right? They've got the firepower for it. Like, their entire team is built off firepower. Picking up Loira and Blaz is supposed to add to the firepower. You dropped Virtue, a support player, for Blaz and Loira. If you're not shooting better and harder than anyone else, what are you doing with this squad? With the inconsistency that this G2 roster has, we have to investigate what is going wrong. And I think it is a culture issue of bankrupt leadership that doesn't want to work. I think the talent's all there. The talent is no factor, so we have to look at team culture, at the team skill. A lot of those players from that SI-23 winning roster aren't there anymore. What's the one constant that's been there throughout? It's the leadership. Maybe there has to be a discussion about that. We'll see. Seeing NA all go down 0-2 at the start was kind of terrifying. I'm not going to lie. You'd expect better out of a region, but, 2 out of 3 surviving sudden death, not bad, honestly. Sonics and Space Station making it through to, not grand finals, to the main stage, pretty big deal, especially given the rough start they had. The year is 2018. Team Liquid, led by Nesk, fails to make main stage at Montreal. The year is 2024. A Team Liquid, led by Nesk, fails to make main stage in Montreal. FaZe Clan was coming in as, probably one of the hottest teams in the tournament. They looked like they were going to win everything and trounced everyone, especially after they went 3-0 in the Swiss stage and then promptly stomped Sonics in the quarterfinals. They looked damn near unstoppable. They were stopped, and I think this roster is running out of time because this is going to be a pretty constant thread that you're going to hear for a lot of teams in the playoffs. But when you have a top competitor and you've stayed together as a core 5, a core 4 for a year plus, and you have not found the success that you're looking for, and to these teams, winning is the success. If you don't come first, you're last for a lot of these teams as far as their mentality goes. When you do not win continuously for that long period of time, it doesn't matter if you're a top 3, top 4, and at some point there is going to be a look at the roster and maybe changes will be made, which I think is a shame. I really enjoy watching this team play. I tweeted it out, but it is not a joke. They are one of the only teams that warms my cold, dead heart. We'll have to see what they do in Boston because at this point you have to look at them and wonder why they are unable to cross the finish line, as it were. I think if you're looking at Europe as a region and you want to bank on a young team with a lot of potential that will grow into a Titan in a year or two, you're looking at Team Secret. It's a very young team that's been built within this past year almost entirely, save Savage and Twister. They have a lot of potential. They're potential man, especially with Into the Breach being free agents. Odds are they're going to get picked apart, so that young roster with a lot of potential isn't going to be a factor. They're still having teething problems, but also it's a rough head-to-head to go up against BDS in your quarterfinal match, all right? Space Station. Where to begin? SSG is at the breaking point. They're in the same position as FaZe with the pretty consistent, decent results, but with less deep runs. And I think that hurts Space Station more than it helps them. This core 3 of Force Fultz and J90 and Callout as coach has been together for well over a year. And they've made gradual changes, picking up Ash and picking up Benja. They've done the one-for-one roster changes, and they've maintained consistent results, which on one hand is particularly impressive. However, they keep being on the verge of being in these semifinals, being in these finals, and they never make it. They never push through the barrier. If it isn't already, it is going to become a mental hang-up at this rate. Always feels a little wrong with Virtus Pro not at an international event. I think what they contribute in playstyle, storyline, legacy, it's all very important, and I think we're better off with them here. I love seeing them in the playoffs, in front of a crowd. It's great. Just the one thing is it's always a struggle to predict how they're going to do because they're so up and down. So you only see them at one major and maybe SI. And then finally, let's talk about BDS and W7M. For BDS, a lot of the conversation has to revolve around that they might be Mickey Mouse. They might be a Mickey Mouse team. Shaiko might have only won a Mickey Mouse major. He only knows how to win one tournament, boys. He only knows how to get the bag. Anytime that Shaiko has to win an actual major or 6 invitational, We ain't seen it since Jönköping, and that was a major that Mirage qualified for. So are we really going to call that a competent, competitive major? Yeah, come on, boys. Real talk, though, for BDS, attending this major final is a success in the sense that they've attended every major final of the year. And that is a very impressive feat, albeit more impressive sounding than it actually is when you remember that we only have two majors a year. So, look, two for two is good. Do not get me wrong, that is genuinely impressive. However, we have to contextualize it and say, hey, we only have two majors a year. This isn't some era-defining streak of tournament finals like you might have said for FaZe Clan when Counter-Strike 2 first came out and they were in like every grand final for what? It was 5-7 events in a row or whatever. If it's that kind of streak, it's genuinely impressive. 2 for 2, still really impressive, just not as insane as the headline would make you say. But beyond that, BDS is a team that is at a genuinely incredible level of play. They aren't just coming in as tournament favorites, they face other top teams like FaZe Clan, and they make them look silly. That's not something you do without loads and loads of talent, and it proves that this international bid to access a wider talent pool to surround players like Shaiko and Likafak with is effective. It's working. It was a gamble to start speaking English, and it has paid off. This is great. Issue is that Siege isn't like Counter-Strike. I already mentioned it. We have two majors a year, one world championship a year. Those are our only international competitions, and we cannot pretend like the third-party circuit is particularly robust when there's only one entity in there and they have a rather suspect reason to invest in our scene. So when BDS is making all these finals, they are one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world, and you don't win the majors. That isn't good. The R6 circuit is a lot like the League of Legends circuit in that success regionally is great. It's awesome. You want that. But success internationally, championship success, is more important and it's harder to find. And when you look back at the year, at the wins and losses of particular orgs are tallied with trophies in mind because you don't have as large of a sample size. So not winning the majors is a big deal. Fluking a major is also a big deal. And unfortunately for BDS, they have not won either major that they attended the grand finals of. And that's a really rough look. That colors how their year looks, even though we all know how strong BDS has been in 2024 after going international. So there's a lot here that there's a lot of good, but I worry that the way this calendar is structured really limits how strong BDS will be perceived in the future when people look back at this era of Siege. And then finally, let's talk about the Bulls. W7M winning the tournament. I think it's so. Let's break that down. As far as W7M is concerned, let's start with the players. Players really, really easy. Like, this new team was kind of seen as a replacement for the GOAT roster, right? Any replacement is going to be disappointing. These players kind of felt like leftovers in a sense. You had Volps, and Volps wasn't necessarily a terrible player. We know he's very skilled. He was part of that W7M roster in 2022 when they were on the come-up. The thing is that Volps was dropped from that Dynasty roster, that Dynasty W7M roster, right before they found their success. And when he made the jump to Team Liquid, which was supposed to be a verified super team when he joined, and subsequently crashed out, that team was not doing great, it came out that there might be some baggage with Volps. He might be a toxic asset with attitude problems, even though he's very clearly skilled at the game. And so by coming back to W7M, getting re-picked up by this organization in a sense, he's shown his worth. He's done the simple, where people kind of know you got a bit of a tude, you got a bit of an attitude, but you're good enough that it doesn't matter. And I think Volps has kind of proven that. Like, yes, I got a bit of an ego. What you gonna do about it? I won a fucking major with W7M. You know, come on. And for the rest of the team, I think this is also a pretty big deal. Dash, Dots, Lobin, Dodez, they got left behind by the Los One organization. Los went off to NA with Cameraman, separately but equally, and they left behind this roster. Like, they were a playoff level team, and Cameraman dipped for M80, Los dipped for the NAL, where they have a tier 2 team in tier 1, and what does that say? Like, you just get left behind, and then you get picked up to W7M to replace the Dynasty. No one was going to look good replacing the Dynasty, and that's your job? That sucks, brother. Despite that, this new roster with Dash, Dots, Lobin, and Volps, and Dodez has found success. That's a really, really impressive feat. And not only that, they now look in prime position to be one of the top dogs going into SI25, and that's really cool. Now, I do want to talk about the W7M organization as a whole as well, because this isn't just a success for the team, this is a success for the org as well. W7M, a lot of people looked at losing that Dynasty roster as a huge blow. You know, I don't remember the exact details whether Furia bought out and acquired that Dynasty roster or if they left at the end of their contracts at the end of SI24. But regardless, W7M lost a era-defining team. And they have not only landed on their feet, they have won a major trophy with the new team. That's a GMing masterclass. There's no other way to put it, right? Not only that, you look at the team they lost, the asset that the organization